This is James Toback, and you are watching Real Black.
Lights, camera, action, it's on. New black film revolution born. Movers, shakers, big and little filmmakers. Let's make a movie today, see where it take us. Halle Berry, Denzel, and Jamie. Terrence Howard, Mike D, and Spike Lee. Brand new filmmaker born every day. Put a camera in his hand and let him lead the way. Let me get an Oscar. Let me get an
Joyce, hold the book open.
Yeah, Mrs. Scott, hold up the book. That's good.
Right here in the middle. Right here in the center, big flash right here.
My name is Joyce Scott, and I'm here to see the opening and premiere of my daughter's film tonight, and I'm excited about it. And she spent time in Africa, and she stayed there for like 6 months this last time. And she's also expecting my grandbaby, a little boy, and I'm super, super excited about everything. I am. No, she couldn't come. But I almost brought some pictures of her, you know, while she's expecting and all, but we better let her kind of rest because she has a big job to do. And it's scheduled for April the 25th? That's when the baby should be coming.
I'm Alexander McCall Smith. I'm the author of a series of books called The #1 Ladies' Detective Agency. And I'm here this evening in Philadelphia to attend the screening of the pilot film in that series, starring Jill Scott, who actually comes from Philadelphia. And so this is quite a moment for me. I'm delighted to be here in Jill's hometown.
Coco. Coco.
Dumelam,
I need some stamps.
I'm sorry. We are a detective agency now.
So you don't have stamps?
No.
Obviously, every author is always worried when he or she hears that a film is going to be made of the books, and you wonder how they're going to do it. Is it going to reflect what's in the book? Because sometimes movies have absolutely nothing to do with what you wrote in the books. But in this particular case, I'm very, very pleased because I knew that the whole project was in the hands of a very fine director, Anthony Minghella, who unfortunately died after the pilot was made, but they have made a very, very fine series, and so I'm very pleased with it, and I'm delighted with the performance of Jill Scott, Annika Noni Rose, and Lucien Msamati, who play the three main characters.
In this imperfect world, I was only able to locate 2 typewriters, and both have problems with certain letters. But I sincerely hope that between the 2 machines, you'll be able to type every word you need.
Is this the 21st century, or did I slip without realizing into a time warp?
What are you talking about?
At Secretarial College in history class, we were told of a former time before computers, when typing was done on machines, and our country was called Botswanaland, and dinosaurs roamed the earth.
I set these books in Botswana, actually, and Botswana is a country in which I have lived. I live in Scotland, but I have lived in Botswana, and I'm a very great fan of Botswana. It's a remarkable country, and I very much like the people there. And I didn't think that I would end up writing quite as many books about Botswana as I ended up writing. But I wanted to portray the positive side of Africa, because Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, gets a really rather disappointing press. People look at the problems that are involved in Africa, and they tend not to look at the positive story. So that's what this is about, really. It's about that positive story. There's entertainment as well, yeah. I mean, I hope that I'm not preaching to anybody. And of course, you know, I could have set these books anywhere. I set my books in various countries. But I think it was right to set this particular series in Botswana, because I wanted to write about a particular sort of lady that you get in Botswana who's got these great qualities. And so Mara Matsui is a really very, very nice woman, a very kind woman. And I must say that I'm delighted that they found an actress who actually strikes me as being rather like Mara Matsui in respect of her qualities. Jill Scott is a very modest, nice woman.
What have you heard? I know lots of people have seen
Oh, I heard at one point, I've seen some of the commercials on television where she said, I'm made of tough stuff. And she is, indeed. Because it was something very, very hard for her to do. Being pregnant in her first trimester and the temperatures of 115 degrees, that was indeed quite a big task for her.
I did write earlier on. I wrote quite a number of children's books and short stories before I started writing these novels. But I became a novelist later on. And I must say that I enjoyed that. And what I'd say to your viewers watching this is if they feel that they want to write books, it's never too late to write a book. So I just encourage people to do that. And I always encourage people to persist. Don't give up, because it's quite tough. Writing a book may be the easy part. Getting it published is the difficult part. But I just say carry on and work at it. I've written 10 books. The 9 books have been published, and the 10th book is about to come out. So in making the series, they've taken plots from throughout the series, and there's still plenty of plots left in the series if they want to carry on and make another series.
Any final thoughts? It's just that I love her, and I'm just so excited about that grandbaby. That's what's happening here. And as far as the movie is concerned, I'm hoping that everybody enjoy it, because she really worked hard at this.
I'm Alexander McCall Smith, and you're watching Real Black.
My name is Joyce Scott, and you're watching Real Black.
I like the mom thing.
That's it.
You know, I think all of us want to be treated with respect. That isn't something that's different by ethnicity or class or culture. And, you know, probably like you do, I try to do that. I try to treat people with respect. And I am particularly drawn to stories about people who are vulnerable and challenged to do something extraordinary. But it is certainly true that I'm very aware that some of the experiences that films like this suggest aren't experiences that I particularly have had. So however empathetic I try to be and respectful of the genuine experience, I haven't had all these experiences. But at some core level, we're all human, and if we really expose our humanity, then we can connect at a level that's deeper than race.
Want some coffee?
Yes, please. D. Roberts?
Excuse me, where I going? Oh, it's my pocket tickets, I'm sorry.
Ms. Roberts, you're charged with distributing narcotics.
That can't be right. I never had anything to do with drugs.
When I read the script, I had a dream about it before my audition. So I felt like something there, I just knew that it was important to me. Then once I actually got the part, Bill Haney did footage, a documentary of the actual woman and the people in the town that had went through all of this. From there, it just kind of started to flow. It started to happen, and I found my feet as her.
Are you kidding me? You want her to sue Calvin Beckett?
Yes, ma'am.
Y'all must be the one doing drugs if you think my daughter's gonna sue the DA in Harmon County, Texas?
Would y'all excuse me for a second, please?
I was in Boston, which is where I live. I was driving home listening to NPR, and there was a journalist like yourself, and they were reporting the story of this extraordinary young woman, 4 little children, in the outskirts of Texas, who had been given Sophie's choice. She'd been wrongfully arrested. She was told she had to either plead guilty and go home as a convicted felon with a series of her federal rights stripped, or stay in prison, risk 25 years in jail if she stood up for what she believed in. And to be honest with you, as I listened to the story about her, I started to cry. And the more I thought about the federal government leaning on a mother and her children in the way they were doing, the more upset I got. And that was 6 years ago, and I've been working on this ever since.
I hear that a lot. Everybody always, compares me to Erin Brockovich. When I met Bill, I didn't know it was going to be a movie. My understanding it was going to be a documentary, and that's just how we looked at it. So, when he come and they do the footages and everything at the house and this and that, and they turned it into this motion picture with this amazing cast. How strange is that? It's weird and overwhelming, and it makes you excited, because how many people get to say that there's a movie being based on their life? Or
writing a film that's not based on a true story is relatively straightforward. this because the sense of responsibility to be respectful and to deal with the real life experiences of all these characters on the one hand, because the legal implications, both the legal procedural issues and then the legal implications of a case like this, that in a sense is reflecting the 13 million Americans who are caught up in the criminal justice system in one way or another. And then trying to take advantage of the talents of the actors and the circumstances of the settings and stuff. There's an awful lot of rewrites. I think 45, 50 drafts.
I went to Juilliard for 4 years, and it's 2 years later. I found this script through my agency, and my agency sent me a stack of scripts, and I was moved by this one. You're reading through things all the time, and something about this just stood out to me. It's a black woman, and I knew that these things were happening, but I hadn't necessarily delved into any of, this particular subject matter. And I went in and I met Bill Haney and Tim Disney, the writer and the director. Their investment in it just sold me. And I was like, regardless, even if I'm not playing D, which I thought there's no way, there's just no way I was going to get that part. I knew that I wanted to play even Claudia, anybody.
To make the story be authentic, there were two central parts of that. The first was to respect the genuine story because it's based on a true story. So I went and spent a long time and repeated trips living among the community that the story is based on. I did long interviews with the real life characters. I filmed those interviews so that their voices and cadence and kind of character of their, and the character of their community, which is reflected in their lives, would be available in the script writing on the one hand. And then, of course, it's about getting great actors. And, it isn't me representing an African-American grandmother, it's Alfre Woodard. It isn't me representing an African-American minister, it's Charles Dutton. It isn't me representing, a guy from the projects, it's Exhibit. And, part of it is a sense of we put the script together and we share the materials with them. And then the actors, in the way that you were suggesting, Nicole Beharie plays the central part, they find it within themselves to bring their own artistry to bear. And that's really what is telling the story, not me.
When I got on set, I was absolutely blown away because I had Alfre Woodard and Charles Dutton, Tim Blake Nelson, Exhibit, Anthony Mackie. I had all these people around me that I've been watching, been studying, and that I've been sort of in awe of, and I'm like in the same line with them working. We also shot in New Orleans, and this is post-Katrina New Orleans, so the sort of sense of being disenfranchised and not knowing how you feel about your government and the choices that have, been made, that was just through osmosis, just coming into everything that we were doing. We were shooting in abandoned projects and what have you. So all of that was feeding me and giving me fuel and ground.
Watching a film, every time it's like reliving it over and over and over and over, because I can relate to it on so many levels. And I'm glad that the film did get made and that the message is out there, because that's more important to me than anything, is getting the message out, as far as stopping the war on drugs. And for it to come to this point, and finally I'm that one voice for the so many Americans, who go through the same thing I go through, I feel like that's just a blessing.
Everybody, this is Lyric Respect, and I'm here with GRB, Good R&B producer and writer, Raphael Saadiq.
That's right.
We are at the TLA tonight. How you feeling?
I'm feeling great.
Good.
How you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good,
that's
actually.
What's up, then. We rolling.
All right, so with your Grammy-nominated album, The Way I See It, congratulations.
Thank you.
By the way. You really commit to more of a Motown Philadelphia International sounding. How difficult was it to move in that direction and commit an entire album to that kind of music when what's really going on in music right now, what's more visible, is on the opposite end of the spectrum?
Well, it wasn't as hard as, people might want to make it, or as often as I hear that question, it wasn't really that hard at all. And if anybody followed anything that I do, I've been sort of whatever was out, I was always to the other side of that anyway. So it's just something I do very naturally. Some of the music that I've done are definitely inspired by, Philly cats, Stylistics, Delphonics, and of course Motown and Stax. It's a lot of different people, but it's so many different people that I'm inspired by. It all comes out of me at some point, which it should. It's just I'm from a garage band of musicians, and so there's so much inside of me that I always wanted to do and put out. And in this climate that the industry is in now, it seems impossible to do it, but for me, I've always done it. I've always taken a risk. And I will say it is a risk, but I don't feel like it's a risk, but it is a risk because I have to take that to a company sometimes that doesn't know what that's about.
True.
But I have fun doing it, and I've been very blessed and fortunate to be able to do what I do.
Well, speaking of risks, on the album you collaborate with a lot of different folk, everyone from Jay-Z to Josh Stone to Stevie Wonder, but there is a collaboration in there that a lot of people may not recognize if they're not music savvy. You worked with funk brother Jack Ashford.
Yeah, Jack.
Tell us a little bit about how that collaboration came about.
Well, Jack was like the glue to the project. The project was just about finished, and I actually called in Jack. I was like, I watched him on the Funk Brothers film, and I found that the ones that were still around, I would have had as many of them as I could, especially the piano player.
Yeah.
So I called Jack, and he came over and played vibes, tambourine, and bells and everything, and his magic, you can feel it. You get to listen to all the stories.
Yeah.
I love stories. His stories are really great about some of the great people I didn't get a chance to be around.
Okay.
And then I also called Paul Reiser, who did all the strings, not all the strings, but a lot of them since he was 18, right out of high school to college, right into Motown. So
Right.
I had two of the greats on the record.
Oh, that's excellent. I read in one of your previous interviews that, the Grammys are just something that comes along with it, but the real, you were saying, and you can help me paraphrase this again, that a lot of that is commensurate for you, the accolades.
Yeah, it doesn't really mean anything. It's cool, because people go, yo, the Grammy nominated record, but honestly, I'm not bitter about it, but it's what it is. Yeah. It's more about the people that I play for, the people I'm in front of that enjoy it. And also, if I did, win a Grammy, and it's good to be looked at by the Academy. The Academy is a great Academy. But for me, the reward is when you're getting it back out of the speakers, when you're writing it, and once the song is done, and the sound is coming back at you, and you hear the music, and you hear it all together. Right. To me, that's the real reward.
Yeah. And I guess speaking of notoriety, you mentioned also that when you put this album together, you were interested in shopping the songs to different films.
Right.
And as we know, Secret Life of Bees had Keep On Marching.
Well, that was the first movie it was in, but then it was also in Tyler Perry's last film. Keep Marching was also in that film.
Okay.
And it's been in a lot of different, LA Law and Nip Tuck. Songs been all over. I just kind of want to do songs that could be licensed and filmed. I was always watching a lot of Quentin Tarantino movies and a lot of great movies, and I saw all these movies that I kept hearing the same songs, from Motown, Stax, all these great songs from the Mamas and the Papas. So I wanted to do a record that my music could be licensed in too. So.
Absolutely. So outside of being a musician, you're also a producer. So how does that work kind of differ for you? Is the process similar? Or?
The process is a little different. You have to work. You work with people. You have to deal with another person. It's always a little different, not harder, but a little different. And but I use sports analogies a lot, and I just feel like you have to be able to shoot from everywhere on the court if you're gonna be in the business that I'm in, and that's what I want to do. So I like producing. I like being an artist. I like it all. I even like film.
So does that mean that eventually you might try to take on the project of producing an entire album for a film?
I've thought about it, and I want to one day, because I also look at people like Isaac Hayes and James Brown, who did all 125th Street, and it's something that I inspire to do one day, for sure.
Cool. Great. Well, future projects?
Well, this group right here,
Yes.
The Boogie, they're opening up for me tonight. It's a group that I just signed.
Nice.
Called The Boogie. They actually self-produced.
Nice.
I don't have to do anything but just show up. They're great,
Nice.
so
Cool.
that's my next project.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for
Thank
taking
you.
a little bit of time with us.
Thank you. Not a problem.
All right.
There was no legal or de facto control or influence from Mike in the movie. The agreement from the beginning was that I would control every frame of the film, or else I really wouldn't have been able to do it.
I come from a really poverty-stricken area, and then when I came to live with Cus, they live in a 14-room Victorian mansion. And I first come here, I said, wow, I could rob these white guys, but they ain't hip. Not thinking, I'm not knowing this guy been around the world a bunch of times. I never knew he was like me. He was from a bad neighborhood. He was a street kid like me. And then one day he used to say, listen, you have the chance to change your life, your family's life. You could be something very special. Don't you want to be champion? You could be champion of the world. And I didn't pay no attention to it. He said, really? You could be champion of the world. You could devastate the world. No man could take what you do. You just gotta believe it. I looked at this guy, and then I started thinking. I said, you really? I said, this guy's really crazy.
Mike visited the set of The Pickup Artist in 1985, and we hit it off immediately. He was there to meet Robert Downey, but he and I ended up walking through Central Park alone that night. And when we wrapped, which was about 4 or 5 in the morning, he and I walked through the park and engaged in a conversation about all of the subjects near and dear to our hearts: sex, love, madness, crime, death, and boxing. This movie, Tyson, came about as the result of several years, probably a decade of anticipation. We had done black and white together in 1998, 1999, I think, and what happened in the course of that movie was that close to the middle of the movie, there's a scene with Mike, and Power of Wu-Tang Clan comes to ask him whether he should murder somebody or not. And the way Mike responded to that question, I said if he could do a whole movie like this, and I could come up with a format for it, a structure, it could really have something fascinating. And what it became was a split-screen, multiple-voice, aesthetically charged movie that gave him the forum in which to reveal himself.
After the fight, I was just so, man, I was just so elated. I didn't know what to do. I just knew Cus would have been proud if he was there to watch me win the championship. It was something that we always talked about.
And I'd like to dedicate my fight to my great guardian, Cus D'Amato, and I'm sure he's up there and he's looking and he's talking to all the great fighters and saying his boy did it.
I wore the championship belt for probably at least 3 weeks. Even when I went to the store, right, it's water around my waist. I was just very proud.
I actually look at Tyson as not just a biographical portrait of Mike Tyson, but in some bizarre way as an autobiographical portrait. There are obviously extreme dissimilarities, but there's also a sense, very powerful sense, that I have of him as a version of me or me as a version of him. And I watched the movie with great intensity and rapt curiosity, not just to learn about him, but to learn about myself. He refers to it as the temperament of an extremist and says nobody who is not an extremist can understand the mind of an extremist, someone who constantly feels driven to go to a height or a depth, but doesn't know how to live in between. That would be the fundamental unifying force. Well, I'm glad that Brett has this new imprint, Rat Press. He has interviews with Bob Evans, interviews with Marlon Brando, and Jim, the author's self-centered memoir on the great Jim Brown by James Toback. And it's great to see it back in print. I did an introduction in which I said it was like meeting an old lost son from 30 years ago, and expressing great admiration for some of the things he's done and criticism for some of the things he's done. But the book overall presents this odd relationship between this white guy, James Toback, and Jim Brown, who was the icon in the black world at the time. So I guess there's a clear parallel now, except that I'm a lot older. Mike is about 7 years older than Jim when I did the book, but I'm now 30 years older than when I did the book about Jim. So I have a different age relationship to Mike Tyson. I'm a lot older than Mike. I'm almost old enough to be Mike's father, where I was a bit younger than Jim. But I do feel a real, there is a real parallel there, because both of them were substantial, fascinating, tremendously successful, uniquely successful, great athletes and stars. And I have been sort of on my own channel of the self-discovery, and I've discovered a lot about myself through each of them. And I think perhaps that's gone both ways.
You got